What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of Clips and Dip.
Are we in Season 2 now?
Yeah, Will, you haven't been here for a very long time. We determined that new seasons start whenever the NBA draft happens. So
Okay.
we are on Season 2.
Yeah. No, after the finals, the season is over. That makes sense. I get it.
That Season 1 cliffhanger was wild, man.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Glad people are sticking around.
Yes, I mean, hey, thank you for sticking around. Thank you if you're listening in the offseason. We are Clips and Dip. We're part of the 2 and 3 Hoops Empire. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Osland and William Updike. You can find us on YouTube at Clippers Podcast, Twitter at Clippers Pod. Guys, how are we doing? We're going to get into we haven't even talked Kenyon Martin Jr. yet. We're going to talk Russ. We're going to talk Plumlee. We're talking what the hell's next, as well as some Summer League. But more importantly, how are you fellas doing? How's your offseason so far? Adam, we'll go with you. You're the more positive one usually.
Everything's awful, guys. It's so hot outside. I can't sleep at night. I got to turn the AC all the way up, and that costs more money. No, I'm good. Everything's fine. Now that I'm back with you two and Will's arrived, I felt like he signed our yearbook and said, see you next year or something like that.
Peace out,
Have
losers.
a nice summer.
Peace.
We miss you, Will. How you been?
I'm good. Basking in this relative lack of Clippers news. We'll get into it in a minute, but I've been enjoying the summer. I'm not taking this heat for granted after the May and June gloom that we've suffered here in Los Angeles. That we've battered down the hatches. I'm welcoming it with open arms. Much
all right,
like this Clippers offseason.
All right, we're basking in the heat. We're gonna talk because there was a flurry of Clippers news. Like we all thought we were gonna trade for James Harden imminently or some crazy thing. We're gonna talk about that in a bit. But I think the more exciting thing is we got some youth on the team. We finally got some youth, a guy who can play. In case you've missed this living your life, the Clippers traded 2 second-round picks to Kenyon Martin Jr. for the Rockets.
Incredible deal.
He's making just under $2 million this upcoming season. Then he's an unrestricted free agent. The Clippers will have full bird rights. So that's nice. Just a breakdown for KJ Martin. Played 87% of his time last season at the small forward. The year before that, 76% of his time at the power forward position. So it seems like there's some flexibility there, as we know that the Clippers love it. 34% from deep on 4.5 attempts per 100 possessions in his career. He's young, he's hustles, he's fast, he dunks. Adam, you've talked about him before. This is a pretty nice little margin piece of business for the Clips.
He played 82 games last year. That's kind of a big deal. No, this is someone we brought up over the last 6 months as someone that we were hoping the Clippers would have an eye on and would target, just because you get that infusion of athleticism, that pop, something that has been sorely missing from this ball club. A rim runner that can really go up and get anything, take a nickel off the top of the backboard, whatever it may be. But I love the fact that you brought up the bird rights, and they can go over the cap to pay him regardless of how this season goes. And look, guys in contract years typically tend to ball out.
Yeah.
There's a motivating factor there. And while he's only shooting 34% from distance over his career, the first 2 seasons he shot about a very respectable 36% from the outside. So he's not just a rim runner. He's got some skill with the shot. And I think it's going to come down to, I love that stat you brought up of how much he played at the power forward position. But if he can guard up because of his athleticism, even though he's undersized, if you have a guy that can leap and just play stronger than your size, that could be a big factor for this team in getting him more minutes on the court and just having a more expanded role. If he can play against fours and hold his own.
Yeah. Will, where are you at on KJ? Have you ordered the jersey yet? Are you waiting?
Well, I'm curious to see if he is going to be able to guard up a position. Last year, probably his most successful season so far in his short tenure in the league, nearly double the amount of minutes from any season previous. And he actually played the fewest amount of minutes at the power forward position. Now, that's not necessarily an indictment on him. I'm just saying.
Bunch of weird shit going on over in Houston.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a team that, maybe doesn't have the best tracking. I'm not going to go as far as to say rudderless, but maybe doesn't have the best tracking lacking in terms of direction. So I definitely wouldn't rule it out as a possibility. He's definitely got the size and the athletic ability. And I think, I mean, youth is a huge thing that we need to infuse this team with, especially if you want to have any hope of sort of extending this championship window around the core duo that we know that they're going to run with. And I love him for the price that you got him. And honestly, like, my biggest concern with this signing really has nothing to do with what Kenyon Martin does on the court or who he is as a player. It has to do with the fact that we still haven't solved one of the biggest problems with this roster, which is the lack of consolidation of the 4 position, or the 3-4, or however you want to like break down that position estimate. You can look up the stats on Basketball Reference on your own, but it's last season, right? We looked at like this glut of talent that the Clippers had. And I think, you can go back and listen to the episodes. All of us were really positive on it, especially on a team with 2 main guys who, it's going to be questionable if they're going to get to the 50 game mark apiece. Sure. It's great to have. But I think what we saw really is that it can lead to a sort of indecision fatigue, especially on the part of Coach Lue. And I think that, adding in another wing, and this is a more athletic wing, but albeit another kind of flawed wing that is not the clear necessarily go ahead over some of the other guys on the roster. I think that really presents a challenge. And the biggest question for me about this signing is, okay, so where are these minutes coming from? Like ultimately, where are these minutes coming from? If these are coming out of Marcus Morris minutes, which if he's still on the roster, he's still expecting a starting spot, really, from everything we've heard, right? It's all just kind of a math equation of like how you're going to figure out how these minutes are going to go. But there's no real loss necessarily, especially because of how low you got him. And I love the idea. I love the direction of getting a little younger, but when the rubber meets the road, where is the playing and development time for Kenyon Martin Jr.? And I don't have the answer right now. I mean, I have some thoughts, but that's something that they're going to have to figure out this season.
Yeah, we did.
Especially with a pending contract. Sorry.
Right, because he wants to.
Sorry to add one extra thing, but like, you do have to figure it out because his rookie deal is about to be up. So if he's not happy with his role, yes, you have his bird rights, but like, would you stay? I don't know,
Oh, we don't want to pull a Joseph and get mad at the front office for an offseason that hasn't finished yet. But I do
shots at Joseph.
We're all kind of assuming.
Retired old man getting.
I love Joseph. He'll be back on with us. He hasn't retired. Come on, he's a special guest. But I think we're all assuming they're going to make some move, considering they already telegraphed a move with Marcus Morris and a trade that fell through with Malcolm Brogdon. So I don't know if he's long for being a Clipper at this point, if they can really go into camp having him, Batum, and Robert Covington still on the team now with KJ Martin, with Kenyon Martin Jr. I don't see it happening. I don't think it's very likely.
They tried to move him, right? Like we're only like 2 weeks away from the Clippers' first piece of business being trading away Marcus Morris.
I just don't see him as the type of guy that now that you've tried to move him, he's willing to stay and play nice. And, he has that
shocking lack of workout picks from Marcus Morris in this offseason. You got to wonder if some of those early free agency sort of moves and indications didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah, we got some more of the possible moves that could be coming. We'll talk about in a future segment in this episode, but I just don't see it happening where Kenyon Martin Jr. isn't getting at least 20 minutes a night. Like
at least
that's a guy that has to be out there, I think.
Well, man, second unit. I mean, it's probably second unit minutes. I don't see Martin starting for the Clippers.
No, and that wasn't what I was suggesting.
Oh, totally. Yeah. 13 to 20. Yeah, I'll take that.
I think 13 to 20 is reasonable. I think expecting 20 at a minimum, I don't know if reasonable. He's getting Terrence Mann minutes. Like I just don't see him as being.
Well, to be fair, they hate Terrence.
That is fair.
It's going to be interesting. And there's so many moves that happen still. I think that initial Marcus Morris move had.
Are there, though?
I mean, I guess from a fan perspective, there is, because we need, like, the 4 thing is every single fan The one thing Clippers fans have united on in this offseason is we need to fix the 4 position. So I guess that's all I see incoming to find room for Martin.
Yeah. And I mean, there's still, well, the thing is like, we just can't sign guys outright because even if you're looking at the market right now and you're thinking, maybe a Christian Wood or an Oubre is somebody who's like gettable at what the Clips can offer, you still got to offload a lot of money before you can even start to think to talk about that. So
I just think Kenyon Martin Jr. is such a breath of fresh air, kind of like Bones Highland, but at more of a, I don't want to say position of need, because the point guard position also is something that Clippers fans were looking to upgrade.
I think it's the position age of need or age of
it's
position.
Just getting younger, finding ways to get younger as your stars age. I think that's where it has to be to have young guys with bounce that can play heavier minutes during the regular season. We can't just rely on Russell Westbrook being able to play every night. There has to be some young guys that can do that and develop while playing good enough basketball and being featured in roles where they can thrive. I just don't think the Clippers have had this element since Montrezl Harrell, of a guy like Kenyon Martin Jr. that can just go up and throw down whatever in that pick and roll game that I'm hoping he can play off of. I think will be really interesting.
Man, the names right now, if you're not watching us on YouTube at Clippers Podcast, are going off. The second unit idea, like the 3-man lineup of Terrence, Bones, and Martin, that's going to be fun to watch in whatever minutes they find for that trio. With Showtime Plum out there, and then whoever at that other position, that'll be a fun little bench unit. We're talking to some Clippers now who've returned. Russell Westbrook is back, signed a 2-year, $7.8 million contract with a player option after this upcoming season. It's all that we could offer. He didn't take some kind of hometown discount. This is the most the Clippers could have offered. Seemingly,
I mean, he took a hometown discount in that he took what the team that he wanted to stay with could possibly maximum give.
But did he get any other offers? Do we know? I don't. No shade on. I generally just don't know. Derek, there was some crazy point guard money going around.
I didn't see anything.
Right when free agency
I didn't see anything publicly, but maybe his intentions, were fairly clear. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would assume somebody else would give him more than just $3.8 million this season had he wanted to go there. I think it came down to everybody knew he was coming back to the Clippers in a similar manner to Austin Reeves was coming back to the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, that's true. So we got to assume he's the starting point guard as of July 12th, 5:45 p.m., right? I don't see anyone dethroning Russ right now when you look at the Clippers roster for starting point guard. We basically need what we got from him for 21 games all of next season, right? Like we need crash the offensive boards, hit shots when he's within 0 to 10 feet of the rim, know when to take the three, and, fix the 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Oh my God, something happened with Will's camera. But he does seem to be here still. But so how are we feeling about the return? I think we kind of knew this was happening. Adam, while Will figures this camera situation out, how are you feeling? What are you expecting?
You're hoping it proves to be a bargain. I don't think he's going to shoot 36% from three over an entire season. But like I said before, if he shot 33% or above that, you're in good shape on limited attempts per game. Yeah. He's done that twice in his career. And that's discounting what he did in the Clippers in limited time last season in just the 20 plus games. But I think they were in need of an emotional leader after Patrick Beverley left, and somebody that can be more of a floor raiser in the regular season because the lack of availability with the 2 stars. And Russ, in that way, not missing games and just being a stabilizing factor out there on the court just for the sake of availability, I think that's meaningful for this group. I think guys do get inspired playing next to Russell Westbrook. Everybody seems to love him.
PG talked about it. He said that he changed the culture, which we talked about it with Tomer.
Man, why don't you change the culture, PG?
Yes, the vibes, that's what Russ is bringing. If it's helping the guys believe to play better, that's good. You look at the offensive rating numbers with PG and Kawhi, it was just 230 minutes, so it's not a large sample size. Offensive rating, 110.5, not good. Defensive rating, 105.4, phenomenal. Net rating, 5.2, not necessarily good. But this is where we're at. What? This feels weird because for Russ's scenario, he played as well as I think most people could have expected him to play, right? Like
better. I mean, yeah. I'd be willing to say better, sure,
for sure. But now
I just think
what do we expect him next year? Like, is it gonna get? It has to be as good as it was for 21 games the whole time next season. Basically.
So let's say it is, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say best case scenario, he stays available, and it is that same similar level of production, which did have its up and downs.
Totally.
Still.
Yeah.
The Clippers, looking at the West and how other teams have improved, are a play-in team, maybe sixth at best. Like,
I will say,
I'm just saying, like, so far in this Clippers offseason, like, looking at what we got, unless we get a massive uptick in the amount of games played between Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, like, this is if you get Russ at the level that he was, this is a play-in team, or maybe slightly above.
I think the difference could be, and we don't know because he's coming off another knee injury, that hopefully Kawhi can hit the ground running and not have this ramp-up process like we saw going into last season where he was coming off the bench at first. And it was really awkward because once he got back to his regular minutes, he played some of, if not the best regular season basketball of his career. And for as much as people have criticized, hey, they weren't even good, even when Kawhi Leonard and Paul George were on the court, they still weren't elite out there. Well, there were 14 games over 500 when Kawhi played. They were at a 630 win percentage. The Denver Nuggets, who won the championship, were at a 640 win percentage last season. So I would say they still were pretty darn good, even though, yes, there was still a lack of continuity. They still hadn't clicked in for a long enough period of time where I think fans felt comfortable saying they are an elite championship contender. But they still punched the Phoenix Suns in the mouth in game one and came out and looked like a team that was going to win that series had Kawhi Leonard just stayed healthy, even without Paul George. So there were still, I think, a lot of positives and reasons to believe that, yeah, if they just could get closer to playing 60 games plus continuity with the backups and not having a guard situation like we did to start off last season with John Wall and Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson, and having a stabilizing force also at the backup center position with Mason Plumlee now signed, which we'll get into a little bit more in a second here. I think their ceiling or their floor is definitely higher than what it started off as last season. Now, we didn't know what Kawhi's minutes or what he was going to look like. I'm hoping we have a better idea going into this season. And what Lawrence Frank is saying, they expect him to be ready for training camp coming off the meniscus cleanup surgery, is true.
When does training camp start?
September?
Tuesday.
All right. It's sometime between next Tuesday and September. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw, but they put out, I can't remember what betting site put out like the win totals for like each division for basketball. The Clippers, they don't have one up because they're just like, we don't know. Like, we have no idea what the availability is going to be, which I think is totally fair. Like, I think.
What would you put the line at if you were Vegas?
So PG's coming in healthy. We know Adam has to like cover his ears and his eyes or whatever while we talk about this. But like, so
48, 50?
50, I'd go like 52.5.
No, I'm saying you're setting the line. You're Vegas.
Oh, I'm Vegas? 51.5. 50.5. I'd go 50.5. So they'd have to win 51 to get the over.
You're Vegas. Brittany is tapping on your shoulder as we speak.
Man, I don't even want. Oh, God, that was so crazy. But so Russ, like, but I did like what Will said. We're essentially, as of 5:52 p.m. July 12th, we're running it back right now, plus KJ Martin. There's probably going to be some moves made. Part of running it back is Mason Plumlee coming back. 1 year, $5 million. Then he's an unrestricted free agent. He can do whatever he's going to do after next year. Can't be traded until December 15th, which I think is something to keep in mind for the people who think that some mid-season moves are going to come. Plumlee, who I could see maybe being either a salary filler, he's kind of he's filler, and then he can be a veteran dump, contract wise. Someone to maybe look out for way down the road past December for someone to be traded. But this is great, right? We got the same backup center we had last year. It feels like forever since we've had the same backup center in like a known role 2 years in a row. Yeah, I don't know. This feels like another good margin piece of business by the Clips.
I would hope, unless Musa takes a big leap, that Mason Plumlee is good for the long haul and somebody they want to keep around for all of next season. Because that contract, that's pretty darn team friendly. $5 million for 1 year.
Yeah,
you're not going to do much better than that.
Yeah,
he's at least top 3 backup center in the league. At worst, it's him and Naz Reid. Like, what are we talking about?
No, totally. Will, where are you at on the Plum Dog? Do you have the jersey coming or?
Stop asking. I own one jersey, and it's because a friend sent it to me.
Which jersey is it? It's sick as hell.
We'll talk
Will
about
just
that on
Nick Saban you. I'm not answering, so stop asking.
Stop asking me.
I love it. And, looking at last year and sort of how things started, especially all the Moses Brown minutes, I do think that if you were pessimistic after this Clippers season, as I was, and a number of people were, just having a legitimate sort of backup center on the roster, I do think that is an uptick or a little bit of a bright side for the Clippers. And, Plumlee, they put together a great highlight reel for him. Like he's a fun player to watch. It's exciting basketball to watch.
He is a little too fun sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm
like, reckless.
Dude, I was trying to find a thumbnail to tweet out. I was using some AI generator, and I was trying to get an AI generated image of Plumlee doing like a Showtime style behind the back pass. AI can't even figure it out yet. So Plumlee's doing things that AI can't even figure out, which might need to get reined in a bit. But Plumlee, Martin, Mann, and Bones. Who's going to be that other person on that second unit? Because that second unit is
Preston after that LASIK.
We're going to talk about Jason Preston in a couple segments. That's going to be fun. He's a good vet to have too. Like if Moose is going to be up with the team, he's a good guy for Moose to learn from. Like it's a great signing. I like the signing.
I'm hoping it's Rocco or Batum in there or Mir Coffee in there. One of those 3 guys, possibly.
I don't think it's Amir. Maybe Rocco.
Did you drop? Who are the 4 you put up?
We got Bones, EJ, Terrence, Big Plum.
EJ?
KJ.
Did
Both
you put in Norman Powell? Are you assuming?
Oh yeah, and Norm. Damn. That second unit can score the ball. Is what it feels like. Don't know how they'll really pass it around or play any defense, but we'll figure all that out later. Coming up, we're going to be talking more things have to be coming. Will kind of alluded to it. We're basically running it back. Some other things have to happen. We're going to talk the Harden stuff. But first, there's ads. And for some people, they've been too loud. Adam's one of those people. He complains about it constantly when we're not recording. So if you've been one of those wonderful individuals who it's been too loud, go ahead and turn it down. We're talking Harden, Kawhi's extension, and then how PG doesn't know how to back cut. Coming up after these ads in 3, 2, 1.
All right, we are back, and we are kind of speculating a little bit about the Clippers offseason. Welcome to Clips and Dips. Also, I didn't bring that in right away at the beginning of the segment. If you somehow got this far into the podcast, no idea what you're listening to. Now you know. Anyways, we talked a little bit about the Clippers signings thus far, but things have gotten a little quiet on the Harden front, if you will. So let's talk there, because I feel like that has been thus far, and depending on how you feel about Malcolm Brogdon, probably the largest name that's been attached to the Clippers in this free agency. Where do you want to start, Chuck?
I don't know. Like the Harden thing's weird. It's gonna drag ass.
So
it's gonna be done in like December, is what it feels like, because Morey is an idiot.
One thing that's kind of interesting to me about this is, seems like every year, especially in the Kawhi and Paul George era, you get kind of faint whispers of some disgruntled star wanting to come to the Clippers. Somebody, they're on the list for a potential trade target. And, we've gotten pretty used to the situation. It's generally a leverage play. You see this all the time. This one is so interesting to me because he opted into the contract. There was not more money on the table. He is a Sixer for all intents and purposes. Like that, it wasn't ever up in the air. So for this one to kind of it just feels like there must have been some more serious conversations, I guess, is what I'm saying, than maybe some of those other sort of trade whispers that we hear that I don't normally give a lot of credence to unless we're hearing something directly, from someone close to the team. But yeah, I think it's interesting because I'm a little unclear how much you're really willing to give up. I talked about in the last segment how, with the improvement of other Western Conference teams, it does feel like the Clippers, even just from a talent perspective, are maybe lagging behind the field a little bit. Certainly don't have the continuity of other teams, but like just in the raw talent department are maybe lagging behind some of their Western Conference competitors. But at the same time, you're talking about an expiring contract for, an aging player.
UFA after the next season too.
Yeah, like I can understand why you're not really willing to do much more than aggregate salary plus. I would say one pick has most likely been on the table, unless they're not serious about this acquisition at all. If they're completely unserious about the acquisition, then no pick has been offered. But beyond that offer, which I get isn't the tastiest, it's not the juiciest of offers.
You mean they don't want Rocco, Nico, and like a pick?
And more, and a pick? Like, I don't really know how much you're willing to go in on this.
I mean, considering Philly isn't exactly having a sell-off or looking to rebuild when you have Joel Embiid there, that means they have to get something substantial back, a playable guy that helps them today. Yeah. Otherwise,
no one is giving that up for James Harden with 1 year left on his deal.
Right.
It's kind of what I'm saying. Because the Clippers aren't the only person in this situation that's like, how much are we willing to put in the pot for an expiring that can walk? It hasn't exactly shown the utmost loyalty or dedication to a team. No disrespect.
They do have Norman Powell's former coach and Nick Nurse, which I think makes things interesting. And I'm sure some combination of him or Terrence Mann or both, along with a first-round pick, and then one of those forwards you talked about.
That's way too fucking much. I'm sorry. That's way too much.
To try to win your first championship?
What
package specifically?
I don't think that's getting it done. And like the window, we talked about expanding.
You think the Sixers want more? Like you think it'd be like Terrence and Norm? Like,
are you asking me?
Yeah, like Will, do you think they'd want like Terrence and Norm?
I mean, if I'm the Sixers, totally. If I'm the Clippers, I mean,
no way. You can't.
That asking price is just way too high. Yeah. Like we just talked about in the last segment about, with KJ Martin, like it's a move in the right direction to get younger. You're going to trade out. I mean, Norm, who isn't young, but comparatively to some of this roster,
right?
And your youngest rotation player. I mean, I don't know. I think at that for you it's championship or bust basically in one season. You maybe have two.
If he comes back, yeah.
If he comes back.
Is that not where they're at anyways? Are they not in that championship or bust window already?
No.
PG was not traded for Scoot. It didn't happen.
I don't think Portland wanted that.
But that's besides the point. Because I do like the way that you guys are kind of debating each side is what I feel like exactly why this is going to drag out until maybe that post-December trade deadline or something like that for guys who are eligible to trade. I think if it gets done, I think it happens in the season.
It's definitely not an easy decision for either side, I think.
Right.
Because he's under contract in Philly.
Yeah.
He has to play to earn the money and to try to get that next contract. So he doesn't have a ton of leverage depending on what kind of stink he makes to try to get out of there. And there was a report earlier today from Ramona Shelbourne that he still wants to be traded.
Yeah.
While Dave McMenamin was saying things have cooled off a little bit. So who knows exactly what's happening behind the scenes. There were some cryptic pictures on Instagram with him, with Tobias Harris, and with Joel Embiid, I
Well,
think.
the Patrick Beverly quotes, because he's got signed by the Sixers, so he's like, I really hope he stays.
Like, is he hell-bent, or is he looking for changes and upgrades, and the head coach still wasn't enough for him being moved out?
Yeah.
How does he have
Other
2 feet out the door?
Other than Mike D'Antoni, does James Harden care about any head coach?
Well, it seemed like him and Doc weren't getting along. There seemed to be something there.
I mean, who could have seen that coming? A guy who flames out in the playoffs pairs up with a coach who can't coach in the playoffs and throws guys under the bus. What's the end to that story? A beautiful and meaningful friendship?
So, Adam, what is you walk into Lawrence's office, you say you're fired, Adam time.
Excuse me?
And now you're the GM. What's the trade? You're not going to do that. I would pay to see you try and do that. But what's the trade you're offering for James Harden?
If you're the Clippers, like, I don't want to see anybody go, of course. I love all these guys. But if I'm thinking of something realistic that Philadelphia might go for, I think Terrence Mann and Norman Powell have to be involved. It starts there because they have to get a player that can make up some of the production that Harden gave them. As much as Tyrese Maxey is improving, you can't just say, he's going to supplement everything that James Harden did, which was lead the league in assists last season. He's still that good. So it's one of them plus either probably Batum or Rocco,
one of the fours,
plus a first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick if they have a couple more of those hanging out somewhere.
They might
after the KJ Martin trade. I don't know either, but I think it's a first-round pick, one of the 2 top forwards in Nico and Rocco, and either Norm or Terrence Mann. And I'm still not convinced for sure that gets it done. That may be where the stalemate's at right now, where Philadelphia is saying, yeah, that's something, but we'd still like to see if we can hold on to James Harden and not have to make this move altogether.
And Daryl Morey is the ultimate. Maybe there's something else out there. Like, he's the ultimate. I'm gonna wait. I don't care. Like, this can take forever. Like, maybe like Daryl Morey is the kind of GM to call teams and be like, "Do you want James?" And they're like, "No." And he's like, "But what about this?" And they're like, "Stop it." Like, he has one destination, and that's what makes it hard because we're dealing with another GM who kind of drags shit out
and has a strong relationship with James Harden, just like Mike D'Antoni had, which Will brought up before. This is Daryl Morey's guy that he said, yeah, on paper, he scores more points per possession than Michael Jordan. So he certainly has.
Man, what a thing to say. What a wild.
It's accurate.
I know it's accurate. There's a lot of accurate, wild ass things you can say.
I don't recall if he said that means he's for sure better than Michael Jordan, or you can compare errors or whatever. But yeah, it's not going to be easy for him to give up on this guy. You may have to throw another sweetener in there. I don't know. Would they want Bones? Would they want to get Bones in there as well? Would you guys want to do that? Brandon Boston Jr.
Because what does Joel Embiid want too? You mentioned the Joel Embiid stuff, like with the Instagram pics. Like, Joel Embiid has a voice in this, right?
He wants to win. Like, if there's any semblance that they are starting to tear things down or becoming a worse team than they were this past season, and they haven't gone to the Eastern Conference Finals since they've had Joel Embiid. Like, that is a really bad look. And then the next shoe to drop is he's asking out.
Yeah, he's been through there's no athlete, I think, in any sport currently that has more of a right to say, I'm done with this scenario if it goes wrong, than Joel Embiid. The man has been with the 76ers. He was the process.
I think that
they might be heading for that imminently, though.
I agree with that too. Yeah. I wouldn't want to.
They could, but you don't want to be the GM who has to do it. Like, I'd rather get fired before.
Well, you look at Toronto and how they never wanted to trade Van Vliet, and then he just walks, and they don't get anything for him.
But they had the ring. Masai Ujiri has the credibility.
Thanks to Kawhi.
Sure, Kawhi. But they made good moves along the way. The trade that's out there that seems the most realistic, even though it's convoluted, is a 3-teamer. Where Dame goes to Philly, where James Harden goes to the Clippers, and Portland ends up with young guys and draft picks, right?
Yeah, I would love that.
The problem is you have Dame wanting to direct
Dame
and put a mandate on where he goes now. And I still, who knows if that's how much that is him, how much that is his agent speaking for him, because I got to believe if he ended up in Philly next to Joel Embiid, the best player by far he's ever played next to, I don't think Damian Lillard is going to make that much of a stink about it. I really don't.
Show up unhappy or whatever those insane reports.
He's not going to hold out and not get paid that money from the Supermax extension that he got. Or if he went to the Clippers, I don't think that would happen either. I think he would settle in.
We know Will wants Lillard on the Clippers. Will, what would you give up for Lillard?
Both of us.
Paul George are my two co-hosts. Thank you.
No, the Paul George for Damian Lillard doesn't really make any sense.
No.
For Portland.
Would you just offer that you wouldn't send to Philly for James for Dame?
Yeah, because he's got more years left. Even though, like aging guard, I don't love the end of that contract. I don't even know how you can, like, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, how you can make the math work for those three superstars plus manage to have any other semblance of a team on the floor. Right. I really don't know how that works.
KJ Martin, bro.
Cap goes up about 10% per year, boys.
Yeah, we're on with the new CBA, we're like wearing 3 aprons or whatever the new things are. Like,
you'd give up, though, Terrence and Norm in a situation for Dame plus a first-round pick and Rocco or Batum?
Yeah. But they got to absorb Morris.
Okay.
Morris has to be gone. I mean, that's fair.
And if you're going that all in.
He's at $45 million this year and then $48 million the next year. Holy fuck.
And when does he get to 60 plus? When he's at 37?
When he's 30, yeah.
35, he's at 58, 36, a cool $63 million player option. He might opt out.
Go for more money after all those chips.
For a guy,
after you win 3 chips in 4 years, why wouldn't you opt out?
I also would do it. I love Damian Lillard.
I like him more than Harden.
The next team he goes to, he's going to be in for a shock when he actually gets criticized for not playing much defense and being a liability on that end. He's gotten by in Portland for so long. He's beloved there because of everything he does and giving them a chance, and he's their favorite son and everything. But once the championship expectations become much more realistic and much more real, as they would to whatever team he goes to, because that's why they're doing it, all of a sudden his flaws are going to get picked at a heck of a lot more.
Yeah, that's a good call. Speaking of kind of other years, and so basically we're just waiting for any real news from this Harden thing. There was some heat. Now it's cooled off. Sources, Twitter is saying that Terrence Mann is the holdup, but who knows?
Let me throw out this regarding James Harden, and this is one of the reasons I'm most for it, because I think it would give the Clippers a better excuse to bring Russell Westbrook off the bench, where I think he's best suited running the show with the second unit and raising their floor. I think if you have James Harden, you can make that argument and say, look, we got to start James Harden. He's the guy, led the league in assists last season over you. We want you to run the show and be the star and the offense centered around you with the bench.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
I think it does make sense. Are Russ and Harden are cool? There's no weird shit.
I don't remember any bad juju between. Obviously Russ was moved to Washington and they brought in John Wall, but I don't think it was. I can't remember something between him and Harden. Harden and CP3 may have
never
had their
worked
issues
before. Why wouldn't it work now?
All right.
It never works until it does.
All right. So as of today, Andrew Greif put out a wonderful piece on the LA Times. Also, just real quick, please support local newspaper beat writers. Sports journalism in terms of print and beat writers is in hell right now. And if you like a local beat writer, please support them. Subscribe, do some shit to help them out. We all need more local actual sports reporting in our lives. Kawhi is extension eligible as of big wigs. No, I don't. I support literal big wigs, but not the big wigs and the fat cats who, run this dang old country. Kawhi is extension eligible as of today. He has until June 30th of next year to sign a 4-year extension, contingent on if he declines his player option for the 24-25 season, or he can sign a 3-year extension on October 23rd if he opts into the contract, according to a person with knowledge of extension timetables, which, what a credit to have in a newspaper.
That was me, actually.
I don't believe that. No disrespect. I don't believe that.
All the disrespect.
He had some quotes from anonymous executives that would be wary of giving Kawhi the full extension due to injury and due to low trade value and all this stuff.
The Ramesses.
Yeah, he asked. Yeah, he just went across the hall. Where are you guys at? Do you want the full extension for Kawhi? Is that what we're probably going to see? Timeline Einstein. That's an all-timer right there. Timeline
Check me out
Einstein.
at Oppenheimer, guys.
Bro, don't even get me started. I am so hyped for Oppenheimer.
The guy who
where are we
watches
at?
65.
Are you giving? You can like more movies. That's how movies work.
You need to broaden your palette.
Adam, you can watch different kinds of movies. One day I'll watch MI5. Next day I'll watch Past Lives. I don't care. Movies are movies.
Cannibal
65.
Holocaust.
Yeah. Great
Absolutely.
movie. All right. Adam's bad movie takes aside. Adam, would you sign Kawhi to let's call it 4 for $220? That's the opt-out 4 for $220.
That's the Matt. Yeah. If you have to, I think there's going to be a negotiation. Just looking at this quote in the Andrew Greif article, and this was coming off the presser on draft night with Lawrence Frank, where he said, quote, and we'll just have the dialogue and just have very, very honest and open conversations and see if there's something that makes sense for all sides, unquote. It's going to be, I think, some hard negotiations going on. I don't think it's going to be an easy process. I don't know. I'm just trying to read the tea leaves here. And considering Kawhi has only played in 52% of the possible 300 plus regular season games that the Clippers have had since he's been here over the 4 years. And like, it's not easy because I don't think we've ever seen a player this elite that also has been this injury prone. Someone who has been a number one option on championship teams that can absolutely get you to the promised land, that can win a first round series against Kevin Durant, even without Paul George. I think he would have, but also there's that injury bug that he can't seem to get over. And it's with that right leg. And he just had meniscus, a cleanup on that right knee coming out of the playoff series. So I don't know. I think you have to, if I'm talking about going all in and it's championship or bust, whatever it takes. But it may not take the entire max to get the deal done. Will?
Yeah, I think it has to be a conversation. I just don't know that you can offer. I don't know that you can offer the full.
Because if you offer it, he's just going to be like, "Yep, like no problem."
Well, is anyone else going to do it? Like that may be the benefit of that New York Knicks report with Paul George. If you don't have the leverage of saying, well, I could just go somewhere else and get the extension because other teams aren't offering it.
Yeah, all these executives are like, we don't know. Like what? Maybe they're colluding. Could be. But I do like that. Like if you're like, yeah, well, you definitely are lowballing Kawhi. What if we paid Kawhi $1 million per game played?
How about that?
That's a great deal for him. The new CBA says you can offer one contract on your team price per game. You can offer PPG price per game. That's the new stat that the new CBA offers.
Well, I guess so. I guess my other thing would be I don't know enough about the CBA, especially like with the current updates. Like
Carl Bart has it all printed out, all 676 pages. If you want it, we talked about it last time we podcast.
Is that his next jersey? Just a CBA jersey?
Yeah, CBA, and the number is 676 on the back of it.
The only way I think it's getting close to that is if you can make it heavily incentive driven. Like if you can, like if the guarantee, like let's say we offer him 4 for $220, but the guaranteed money is,
so you're almost in like
a lot closer to half that.
You're almost in like NFL contract territory. I mean, no, I'm not. That's an interesting take. That's if you're
interesting
idea.
If you want that number and of course, who wouldn't? And obviously, they're gonna do everything they can to keep Kawhi. Are you willing to put it on the line? I don't know.
It seems a little bit though like then you're challenging whether or not he could have played in some of these games, and it's not really about how much he's actually been injured.
Has nothing to do with the past, my pal. Has to do with the future.
Okay, but we know what the past is, and we can't erase what's been happening over the last 4 years. Like
Which
it's
is why
Men
he
in
played
Black.
for the future.
Like
Also,
the
we
reason
could. They
it
have that
had
technology.
it, if the past didn't matter, and we were just talking about Kawhi Leonard's won multiple NBA Finals MVPs, then they wouldn't even try to negotiate. They just say, "Oh, this is a guy who on paper you just have to give the max to."
How many years ago, though, my guy? Like,
I'm saying so the past does matter, right? Because of what's transpired over the last 4 years.
But it is kind of a weird scenario, as you said. Like, we might see some incentives. I don't know if it'll be crazy heavy, like half the contract, but
Yeah.
I could see some incentives in there.
Yeah.
Worded in a way that isn't disrespectful to the fact that he's actually hurt. It
but
was
I
like,
mean, like, you're.
Yeah.
Like, he
I-
tore his ACL trying to win the championship. Like,
Right.
he's not getting
know.
hurt for no reason. He played in game 2 on the meniscus. Like,
Look, I don't want to get into a conversation because I don't think that this is any fault of theirs. I don't think that Kawhi is choosing not to play or anything like that. But like, he's as acutely aware of how many games he's played as we are in the front office is. Like, I'm not saying that if you give him an incentive laden thing like that, it might, that might be a sign of bad faith. But I mean, he also knows what the marketplace could be like league wide were he were to opt out.
Here's a question for you: Would you?
The teams that are spending money, the teams that
suck.
can throw $220 million at you, that's where you want to play, Kawhi?
Right? Yeah. You want to go to Charlotte?
That's where you want to run things out.
Here's a question: Would you give the max contract to a player who admittedly doesn't know how to back cut?
Absolutely not.
you mean the guy who had a 360 dunk on a back cut right before he got
But
hurt?
he didn't even know how to back cut. I'm just doing this to give you shit specifically, Adam.
Like, you guys are losing the podcast P battle. Everybody's loving it, but you two.
That's
I'm gonna
not
be-
true at
if-
all.
if
It
I
is
man.
true.
No, it's not.
They're calling it the best NBA podcast out there besides Clips and Dip.
Okay, sure. Low bar.
That's
If we're
the
number
bar.
1, that's a low bar.
Best
low
thing since
bar.
the movie 65. That's what
PG
they're saying.
PG's anyway. So
If I was
do
in the
think-
negotiating room with PG, I would say, Paul, gonna slide you a number. Why don't you go ahead and take a look? Tell me what you think. I dramatically slide a piece of printer paper across a very long
printer
table.
paper? It's a big sheet of paper.
Oh yeah, it's a full.
No,
it's
you know
a-
what you should
From
slide?
a laser printer.
You slide when you're in like art class and you have to get a big piece of paper off the thing and rip it across the big cutter. That's what you're sliding across the table.
Yeah.
And
And
what's
he's
on
picking
it?
it up and he's going, "This is just a blank piece of printer paper," and I'm saying, "What do you say, buddy?"
So
4
I
for
do-
0.
I do think part of the leverage the front office has is not just the injuries. They know what's been going on the last few years. Not just that, if that report is true about the New York Knicks, but we think overall in the NBA right now, there aren't a lot of teams that would likely give them the max extension. But they also want to be home. That's part of the reason they became Clippers to begin with. So you have that working in your favor when you're going through these negotiations, right?
Yeah. It's again, the Clippers find themselves in multiple.
Yeah, what are these guys? Edward Sharp and the Magnetic Zeros?
A joke that I don't get it.
I don't know the reference,
That
but I'd like to.
That terrible song, "Let Me Come Home," from the
Oh, yeah.
2010s eras,
Oh,
from the
man.
stomp clap era of music.
Stomp clap. Yeah, I don't know. The Clippers are just in quagmire after quagmire is what it feels like. The contract negotiations are going to be a quagmire. The Harden thing's a quagmire. And this isn't their fault. It's just like we're in the age of quagmires right now for the Clippers.
Too many quagmires.
Theoretically, you should have none.
Team's not a family, guy.
All right, Will's off the pod. Coming up, we are going to be talking, just Adam and I, are going to be talking some summer league updates.
This is why I've been gone. This was actually not a planned absence by me.
This was a forced absence.
They were just like, yeah. We're going to record later, but it sounds like you're pretty busy.
If you got something going on, man, totally cool, dude.
Unless you got one of those Nick Batum jokes again.
Hey, that's a classic.
That was a classic.
Bro, it's season 2. Season 2, episode 3. We're starting hot. All right, we're coming up. We're going to be talking the Summer League. Who's impressed? Who still can't get by anybody, no matter what position they seem to play? But that's coming up. The ads have been a little loud, so if that's been loud for you, go ahead and turn it down. We got ads coming up, and then Summer League talk in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into Clips and Dip. I'm Adam Moslin. It is season 2, episode 3 of season 2. If you missed season 1, well, you can go back and then try to guess who shot Mr. Burns or whatever the hell, because we revealed it in episode 1 of season 2.
It was Maggie. Maggie shot Mr. Burns.
Like we all thought. So there is some summer league going around at the moment. In fact, earlier today,
like it's a virus. I did have to explain. I was sitting on the couch the other day, and Hannah was like, "What basketball are you watching?" And I was like, "Summer League." She goes, "What is Summer League?" Which I've explained many times, and it never gets easier to be like, "This is the basketball that's before training camp of guys who might not make the league, but might."
Well, it's way easier to sell if your team actually has draft equity or you know what I mean?
Victor Wembanyama on your
team. It makes a lot
or
more sense,
Yeah.
I watched the game earlier today, partly just on the fact that Noah Eagle, now former Clippers radio voice, was on the call on NBA TV with 3D Dennis Scott. It was fantastic. Felt like he gave the Clippers a little more love on every make. No, he didn't. He's a professional like that. They were taking on, God, who the hell was the team they were playing today? It was the Memphis Grizzlies, because they have one of the biggest players in Summer League, looking like Hodor, against the Clippers, and Kenny Lofton Jr., no relation to the former baseball player, who was kind of an all-world athlete, I think. He did a few different things. But Clippers ended up getting the victory. They're 2-1 now in the 3 games in Summer League, going back to last Saturday. But you mentioned it before the break. Jason Preston didn't exactly shine.
He's such a good passer. That's the thing.
He has the vision.
The vision is so there. He can pass with either hand. It's just like there's something about it, man. When he gets the ball in his hands and the guy is in front of him, he just says, huh, there's no way to go around this player. It's an aggression thing. His size at the point guard position is good. It's just not. He doesn't have the first step. He does not have the first step.
Yeah. I wonder, is that something, because he had the foot injury his rookie season, if he lost a little bit of that juice because of that? I don't know.
He didn't even have juice to begin with is the issue. It's not like he went from crazy first step to no first step. He went from kind of a first step to no first step.
The blogging juice was evident, though.
Oh, man, his WPM? I'll tell you what, highest WPM in the league, probably Jason Preston. He's probably at $115 words per minute would be my guess.
Will, you've been traditionally the Jason Preston hater on this podcast, which is weird for a guy who hasn't played much in the NBA. Do you want to start with your assessment on his
I like
play?
that Will gets that title and not me.
Was it you, Chuck?
I think he's so bad.
He stinks.
I don't think he stinks. He's just never going to play for the Clippers.
He stinks, dude. He's never going to play.
No, I think it was Will, yeah. I think he's confirming.
All right. So Jason Preston, very good at passing, not good at a whole bunch else. Musa
he
Diabate.
Can't score, so passing doesn't matter in the NBA. It doesn't matter.
Against Utah on Saturday. How dare you, sir?
On Saturday, in the middle of July, he's putting up 15 in Vegas. Musa Diabate didn't play in Wednesday's game because he's been hurt or sick or something. Very energetic. 213 Hoops on their kind of primer said that he's a year away. I think that feels pretty fair.
Once again, he is a year away from being a year away if we start the season with all of the 4s currently signed that we have right now.
Yeah, he doesn't have time. Interesting fact, Adam, I'm sure you heard this on the broadcast. Ty Lue said that Musa Diabate has put up 6,000 more shots than any other guy so far this offseason.
Jeez. Mamba mentality.
Is
I
that
like
too
it.
many shots?
How do you get it to an exact number?
He said Lawrence Frank keeps track of everything was the exact quote.
He's got like the little, like the bouncer has like the little clicker.
Yeah,
timer
he's got.
ticker.
Yeah, I think he's just doing hash marks on the gym wall.
Hey,
But
first in, last out at practice.
well, he's got to be the last out if he's putting up 6,000 extra shots. So he's splitting up the three. Like it's just a lot. What if he did it all in one day? But I think probably another year away. Kobe Brown though, the shot has not been there in the summer league.
4 for 17 from 3.
Everything else there in summer league. He's grabbing boards, like he's really active, got a good handle. I like it. I'm really excited to see what he does in the G League this year. Like he
fits the personality mold, I feel like, for the kind of guy the Clippers are looking for.
Yeah, I've liked what the limited stuff I've really been able to catch from Kobe Brown. Adam, what do you think?
No, I've been impressed with his ball handling and some of his playmaking out there. Like the way he brings the ball up the floor, he's so comfortable. Like, it's weird to see a guy that size play with the basketball, and because he's big, like he's not Zion, but he's big, he's strong. It looks like Anthony Mason a little bit, the late great Anthony Mason out there. So he has a skill set. Obviously, the shots haven't been falling, but when they do, it looks really good. His form looks nice. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for him is that 3-point shooting from his senior year where he shot 46% going to translate at all. It doesn't need to be that. It could be 38%.
I love the at all. Yeah, it could be 35%. Like if he's going to do everything else that he's doing, he's going to be that bench guy who comes in. You're like, oh shit. Okay, cool. Thanks, Kobe Brown. Like,
yeah, it's less about accentuating your strengths sometimes as a young player and more on just minimizing the miscues and not standing out by not fitting in.
Especially for Ty Lue coach team. He has enough of those with the guys who are already on the team. Like, if you're a young guy, you can't be making mistakes. Jordan Miller. Room to grow? I don't know. Nothing super special that's like popped out.
I liked him. In game 1, I think he had 12 points, 4 assists, 0 turnovers, and he is long. Like he's listed at 6'7". He's got the long wingspan. He projects. I know he's 23 and still an older player too, but he looks the part. He looks like your modern NBA switchable, versatile type of player. Whether or not he ends up having the instincts and it all comes together for him, I don't know. But the body type is certainly there.
Yeah.
Miller Light Jordan out there.
I like that actually. That's a great nickname. Will's back. The jokes are back. And then Xavier Moon, who clearly is the best player on the summer league team because he's 28 years old and has played more in the NBA than anyone else. And I believe has scored, this is not an exaggeration, like 65% of his points in the fourth quarter over the 3 games the Clippers have played. Like
I think it might be higher.
It looks like it legit. Russo had a stat for it. But he's a guy who like, and I don't want this to come off as weird. I feel bad that he's on a summer league team.
I think he's like, I think that he likes the opportunity to show out. And I mean, like, it's just a bummer.
He just doesn't fit in the NBA, which he doesn't really. He's so good.
He doesn't really fit in the NBA, especially like is not the answer at point guard for the Clippers.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. Quarters 1 through 3 for Xavier Moon in the summer league. 19 points. Fourth quarters. That's total for these 3 games. Fourth quarters. 41 points. He scored like over 50% of his points in the fourth. He's a guy who like I see him as a Clippers coach. And I don't mean that. That's not in a disrespectful way at all. The dude knows how to play NBA basketball. He's so smart. He's so crafty. He's a vibes guy per Reggie. Like I see him as a coach I hope he ends up as a coach for the Clippers if he cannot find a spot on an NBA team. Because inevitably when he has to stop playing, I hope he comes back to the Clips as a coach because he just seems like he'd fit a nice coaching role for the Clippers.
I think it's as simple for him as it's just genetics. If he was a little bit bigger with the stuff that he brings to the game, he would be fine. Yes, I think he would be fine in the 90s, in the early 2000s. The problem is teams matchup hunt so much more now that if you're undersized defensively, if you're diminutive, they're going to find you and attack you and spam you. that's it. The skill is there. He's got quickness. He's got bounce. Like, that's why I feel bad for him. He can take over. He's the Jerry West of fourth quarters in summer league. Like,
I mean, he's literally like the greatest player in the history of the Canadian Basketball League. Didn't they name the MVP award after him?
Yeah. And
Like,
James Naismith was Canadian. They named it after
it's after Xavier Damn Moon. Like, no, seriously, like, it's such a crazy career. But I hope he comes back for the Clips. He won 2 MVPs in Canada. That's so sick.
Yeah. And what's disappointing is in this era of Clippers basketball, and there's an upshot to this. I'll get to at the end.
He won 3 MVPs. Jesus Christ.
Dominant.
That's so rad.
They have had this, maybe it's a self-created problem.
Probably.
Or it's not actually an issue, but it seems to be one, or a talking point for us at least. They've had a lack of a traditional point guard in the 2-1-3 era, and we're going into year 5 of the 2-1-3 era. You would have hoped that they might have been able to draft a guy in the summer of 2019 that they could have molded into form by now, right? That would have been ideal. Or they could have found a guy in free agency. It never really happened. But the other side of it is they got Bones Highland. They let somebody else develop a young guy at a point guard position, and they were able to get him. And it's kind of like he's their young guy draft pick that has the high ceiling at the point guard position. And hopefully the timeline still is there for him to match up with the 2-1-3 era and for them to put it all together where he can be a contributor on a team that has a lot of vets and has a lot of expectations.
Yeah. Man. Anything? I mean, I think we're winding down. Any final thoughts on Summer League?
That Thomas guy had a nasty ankle breaker today.
Oh, yeah. That was a good call.
And he was very good. But overall, there just hasn't been enough. And I haven't even watched the entire 3 games in their entirety. But I've watched enough highlights to see.
It really matters if your team sucks and you want to see if the guy who's going to get actual minutes is going to be good.
Yeah, the guy who has been the standout is the 28-year-old and Xavier Moon.
Right.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It hasn't been one of the young guys, one of the 23-year-olds. That would have brought about a lot more excitement. When Brandon Boston was lighting things up, it brought about more excitement. Yeah. But because one of these older rookies hasn't popped yet, people aren't exactly freaking out about the Summer League, and there's just not enough buzz right now among Clipper Nation because, well, we already knew Moon could do this. And like you said,
we saw him do it.
It's too easy for him. He's too talented for this league, but when he wants to flip that switch in the fourth quarter, he shows why.
Yeah. I think we're about wrapping it up. That's about it. We're going to be back next week for y'all, maybe with a guest. Who knows? Could be fun. You can find us. Will, where can these wonderful people find this podcast?
So you can check us out over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If you could leave a rating or review on either one of those platforms, we'd really appreciate it. You can listen to us, as I said, on both of those. We're also on Google Podcasts. We're on Amazon Music. We're on Stitcher. We're on Deezer. We're on all the regular suspects, all the irregular suspects. If there's anywhere you listen to podcasts and we're not there, go and let us know.
Please do. We're on YouTube at Clippers Podcast. And yeah, I think that about wraps up. I hope everyone's having a great offseason. Hope Ralph Lawler and Joe are doing okay.
Yes.
They caught a bit of the COVID, and Ralph said he was kind of going through it over on Twitter. So sending all the vibes over to them. Hope they're doing okay. And we'll be back next week. And as always, let's go Clips.